Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Nikolai518. Today, it's going to be something a little different. We got our very first interview. Today, I'm here with Aphrenics. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, dude. How about you?
Doing good. So, I'm interviewing you because you write esports-related articles for some companies, or you have in the past. Is that true?
Yeah,
Okay.
I wrote for Western Wolves and Absolute Legends, most notably, both of which have dissolved at this point.
Okay. Now, if there was somebody out there watching this interview right now, do you have any tips or tricks, or I guess, how did the process go? Did you just begin writing on your own and then you applied, or could you kind of explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so originally, like the main reason that I wanted to get into it was because I've always been better at writing than speaking, and it was kind of my outlet for competitive fighting games because it's hard to do that from where I live. So what I did to get into it was I just found the biggest place that I could get into with no real experience. And I did have a little bit of personal blog stuff that I sent them and whatever, some meaningless stuff. And luckily, I got on pretty early to Absolute Legends as their first fighting game writer because previously they were League exclusive. And yeah, I pretty much just got into it that way. There wasn't really too much to go on before it. It's you kind of have to get lucky to get into a certain place like that when you're first starting out.
Okay. Now, I know we talked a little bit about, the companies you worked for and stuff like that. And do you want to give them that tip that we talked about, your work and all that other stuff?
Yeah, so the number one thing that I regret besides my existence is the fact that I didn't save any of my work from any of the sites that I wrote because I didn't expect them to just disappear overnight. And essentially what that means now is if I tried to get into writing again, I'd pretty much be starting from ground zero despite how much experience I do have because it's basically impossible to prove it. So if there were I have the main piece of advice, which is to back up everything and keep a portfolio. But the second thing I would say is know what you're worth when you're doing this. Like if you know that your work is worth something, make sure you get what it's worth because a lot of these companies that I worked with previously, they weren't too excited to reimburse you for any of the work that you did. So if you are already working with a site like that, writing or anything like that, try to make sure you get at least what you've agreed upon, or try to get what you're worth at the very least.
Okay, yeah. So maybe kind of have, a file on your computer or some type of portfolio just in case a worst case scenario like that does happen.
Yeah.
Now, it does sounds like, it happened very quickly and that's definitely unfortunate. But I definitely think it's something, you could absolutely get back into.
Mhm.
Now, just to kind of give a little background, I actually met you quite a while ago through World of Warcraft. We're kind of in the same Discord channel a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay. And you also know Samrun.
Yeah.
So how exactly did you get into WoW? And, like, that's something I got into right around its, very first expansion. What was kind of your story with it? How did you start playing?
So the first time I remember hearing about this game was all the way back in junior high. My friend, he was like, "Oh man, you can be like cows and shit in here," and I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, you can be all these like green dudes and cows," and I'm like, "That sounds pretty cool. What about the cow guys?" And originally, I was most interested in Torn, and once I finally went out and picked up the game through him, I never even ended up making a Torrent, but that's how I got into the game. It was just like through word of mouth back in the day when I was in junior high. That's kind of how I heard about a lot of things. And yeah, that pretty much just went from there. I started playing with like all of my friends, everybody who I knew throughout junior high and even high school. We were all playing this game, so I kind of just got sucked into the vortex from there.
That's awesome. And uh, the game is so big that literally, like when I started, I was like, I want to be a dwarf rogue. And honestly, I never ended up playing one either. It's just such a big game that you just kind of fall into other things. So one other thing I do want to talk about in relation to WoW is the pre-patch that's currently out right now for Battle for Azeroth. How do you personally feel about it? It seems like you have been playing for a while, so you've probably been around for some pre-patches. In your opinion, is this a fun one? Are you enjoying it? Are things kind of, going your way or not going your way in game? And I guess also, what is your main class too, just so that they know?
So I guess the first thing I'll say is, tentatively speaking, my main class is my Holy Paladin. Um, Now, my thoughts on the pre-patch, it's minus the little whoopsie daisies that they had at the launch and all that. Honestly, like I was around for the Legion pre-patch, of course, right? And that pre-patch was pure agony. I couldn't stand that pre-patch. Going into a BG and just 10 people wailing on an Affliction Warlock, never dying, that was garbage. But at least, like with BFA pre-patch, it has its problems. But honestly, I'm ready to get out of Legion because that Affliction Warlock thing really never changed. And I'm ready to just get out of this expansion. And honestly, I think it's been a really good breath of fresh air. It's fun. Holy Paladin might not be the best right now, but I mean, it's still fun. And I really think like this is what I needed to really reinvigorate my interest in the game, because Legion was kind of killing it between legendaries and all that garbage AP, the usual. So I definitely think it's good. I wish they would stop time gaining everything, but I guess at the same time they kind of have to, otherwise everyone would be done the whole thing by now. So, but yeah, overall I think at least it's very fun. Whether it's good or not, I think it depends on the class you play, especially if you're playing Rogue. But yeah, I think at least it's fun.
Now, I know in the Legion pre-patch, things were a little wonky at first too. Do you think that's subject to change once everyone kind of hits 120? And I do agree about the whole time gate thing but I see why they do it, just because there would absolutely be people who would play nonstop and eventually be maxed out in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
But do you think it'll still be the same? I know you mentioned kind of the Warlock issue, but once we can actually level up higher and hit 120, do you think things will still be the same? Or I guess in respect to Legion, I know outside of the Warlock thing, do you think at 120 it'll kind of balance itself out a little bit?
I mean, I still expect there to be the usual amount of Blizzard imbalance, but I think it will be pretty comparable to how Legion was. Like, obviously, right now, the tuning, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the tuning is completely out of whack, considering even the dungeons aren't tuned, and they're still nerfing stuff, like, from, like, level 60, like, because 1 to 60 right now, the bosses, like, they take longer to kill than Mythic plus 20 right now. It's insane. So, so I definitely think it'll be a lot better at 120, because I know, and I think I remember them saying that all the tuning right now is done for 120. So I think obviously like right now it's just kind of like it's the same effect as if you were playing before the cap during Legion. It's just like we're playing characters that aren't at the intended level cap right now, only because the level cap's not unlocked yet. So I definitely think it's going to be a lot better at 120.
Okay. Now, I do want to kind of take a step back and also take a step out of the Blizzard universe. You said that you wrote primarily for fighting video games. Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, the first question I have is what fighting video games were they? And as far as the job went, is this something that you could do from your house, or did you physically have to relocate?
So I played competitively, but the main reason that I don't really play too many anymore is because it's so hard to do from the region that I live in. So that answers the question where I didn't have to relocate. And to speak on the games that they were, mostly like I started, the first fighting game I ever started really playing was way back in like 2008 with Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger. And then eventually I moved on to Street Fighter 4 like most people do. And then Street Fighter 5. And I've played pretty much everything else in the interim, but those were the three that I mainly played.
Okay, awesome. Now, I want to thank you very much for reaching out to me. He actually reached out to me via my email, nikolai518@gmail.com. Dude, you are awesome. The very first interviewee, and I do appreciate it. Now, below in the description, I am going to have some of your information. I know that you have a Twitter account. Outside of that, do you have any other information for us?
Besides my Twitter, my Twitch, I think that's basically all it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he does stream as well. So down in the description below, I will have a link to your Twitter and your Twitch account. If you guys are interested, you can absolutely reach out to him, ask more questions, and definitely stop by the stream. I went there, and somebody was even nice enough to gift me a sub to your stream. I thought that was awesome, dude. So
Mad Mallard.
So I'll definitely be working with you again, man. And thank you very much for your time.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, take care.